welcome to this webinar. My name is Andrea Henkel-Bürg, and I pass already over to Katie, who will start this presentation.
Hi, and I'm Katie Brennan, and Andrea and I work together and have pulled together research and practical tools to help support people to manage long COVID symptoms using evidence-based solutions. And we're really happy to be able to share some further background and thinking with you via this webinar. We hope you find it useful. So to kick off, we want to say that this webinar is intended to share knowledge to help inform your understanding about long COVID, what it does to the body, and symptom management options. This is not meant to be a replacement for clinical advice and guidance, and we really encourage you to connect with your doctors about what approach is right for you and what approach fits with the other support that you might be getting around long COVID management. So what we will cover today, we always like to break things down into why, what, and how. So that helps promote the background understanding about sort of why your body is being impacted the way it is by COVID and long COVID, help you understand what can be done to help your body manage issues that are created by long COVID, and then how to use this knowledge, really importantly, to turn it into very simple, very practical actions, movements, and tools that you can use regularly to feel better. So a little bit of more background on myself and then Andrea. I'm an economist by background and spent many years doing policy work and analytics. I've worked in a few different fields, but spent over a decade in kind of the health space and in health policy and strategy development, and supporting really talented clinicians to use data to improve care and care pathways, including supporting care pathways and improvement work for people with complex conditions and complex needs. And in March 2020, unfortunately, I was infected with COVID in one of the early waves and then experienced long COVID for a long time after that, and was able eventually to get some time and space away to dive into my kind of healthcare background and some of the work that I'd done previously looking at complex conditions. And really interestingly, there were a lot of similar themes emerging, and was able to kind of find solutions out of some of that work and some of the kind of innovative support work that we'd looked at and that I'd been part of as part of my previous healthcare experience, and really focusing on things like nervous system alignment, all kind of non-pharmaceutical solutions, but ones that allowed the body to kind of get back into balance and tackle some of the underlying factors with long COVID, which we're going to get into a little bit later. And, very fortunate to be able to have been a quality improvement coach and trained through the Institute for Healthcare Improvement. And again, I think that that's definitely colored my lens and my experience through my own approach to long COVID symptom management, but also trying to find solutions and having, fortunately, some tools to draw on that have been proven in the healthcare space to be able to tackle really tricky problems that have been out there for clinicians and others. Great, and I'll hand over to Andrea now.
Yeah, I'm coming from a different angle. I was a former professional athlete on the like the highest level you can compete at, the Olympics. I was competing a bunch of world championships and have some medals at home. But of course, this career also is over at some point, and my passion was after I stopped competing to use all this knowledge I had throughout my career and became a personal trainer to help other people to achieve their goals, but not only in sports, more likely in like health and how they want to live their life and want to have energy for living their life. And I'm already through my career was very, of course, interested in how the body functions and what we can do naturally to let our body function on the highest level possible. And nutrition was every time a big part of my interest. And then also later on, when I went to different certifications to improve my skills for personal training, I also learned more and more about the body brain connections, which fascinated me. And I'm using it now with my clients. And when we're looking for solutions to see the body as a whole system, so I also went to back to school to study psychoneuroimmunology. It's basically how the body systems work together, function together, and what happens when one system is maybe out a little bit, and what happens to the other systems, and all these fascinating things which can happen in the body, but also how we can support the systems to improve health and long-term health. And the certifications in sea health and also life kinetic, both of those fields are deep into the body brain connection and how we can use also our body and joints and different movements to support our brain and brain health. And since I already said I'm very, very interested in nutrition, it was a big component of my education part and still is ongoing, big component of my educational part when it comes to like well-being and supporting people to feel better and feeling how they want to feel. So you might be here because you have some experiencing with long COVID, or you're impacted by COVID, or you know someone who has still symptoms, long COVID symptoms after COVID-19 infection or vaccination, and you might be looking for solutions while still being a little bit frustrated by the limited support available, and you couldn't found the solutions yet which are right for you, and also you may have the feeling you didn't get the right support from doctors or others. And of course you want to be well, you're eager to be well again, and you're sick of being unwell and concerned also about the long-term health impact by long COVID. And that's why you probably here want to learn more about it. And at first, we every time have this kind of framework, which also comes from the professional sports world, how to like heal and how to recover from an injury or from being sick. And long COVID isn't like a other recovery, like a traditional recovery, we want to say it this way. And the typical injury recovers involves like a combination of rest and then of course a support to healing and then a progressive training and the rehabilitation process and then to be back on your feet and keep going. And with long COVID, this often it doesn't work this way. And even in the non-long COVID world, this treatment or this like process is sometimes not as effective. But with long COVID, we need to like really pinpoint the difference here too. And I would let Katie talk about this a little more since she has the personal experience in addition to the background about how to address this everything with long COVID.
Yeah, I mean, I think with kind of a typical recovery, if you injured your ankle or broken your leg, you do have that healing process. But the injury is kind of finite, and then it physically knits, your body knits back together, and then it's about, recovering your strength and getting that part of your body working again. But with long COVID, one of the challenges is that people experience kind of ongoing systemic impacts on their body. And so that kind of rest and then progressively recover approach doesn't work because the ongoing issues mean that once you start to that the rest alone doesn't heal you, and that then the kind of progressive activity means that your body gets overstressed. So instead, there needs to be a very kind of careful set of work to build a foundation to help kind of reset some of those systemic impacts in your body, and then to very slowly, very gradually develop capabilities over time, but with the support of foundational activities and very small, gentle movements, as an example, that can help, stem that ongoing reaction that your body has, and that your body systems are having, kind of after that COVID infection. And, I think that I'm always, a little bit blown away by the scale of impact of long COVID. So, there's sort of been a lot of calls to say that we're confronting a growing public health crisis, and that this was an editorial quote, headline from the Lancet Respiratory Medicine last year. But there's been lots of other comments and concern about the wider impact on society and the economy. And again, this we've always had post-viral issues in the population that have been significant and I think underappreciated as well, and undercounted. But post-pandemic and as a result of COVID, those numbers have exploded. And we know that evidence suggests that at least 10% of people who have had a COVID infection have now or have experienced long COVID. And there's one study and some other evidence emerging that that number could be much higher if we're including more mild cases of long COVID. And I think we really, don't have the diagnostics to understand the full scale yet, but we know that millions and millions of people are impacted, and some are impacted, very severely and find it difficult to do daily activities and leave their home comfortably. Other people are able to go about their daily lives and even work, and kind of meet family commitments and responsibilities, but are doing so while they're managing some pretty difficult and challenging symptoms, and very much not thriving, not feeling like themselves. So what do people experience who are facing long COVID? What does it look like? Long COVID includes over 200 symptoms that have been documented. And these include things like memory loss, brain fog, vertigo, changes in taste and smell, trouble swallowing, breathing difficulty, abdominal pain, disruption to the gut microbiome, post-exertional malaise after effort or exposure to stimuli, sleep disruption, temperature dysregulation, headaches, anxiety, sometimes people feeling like they're going to pass out or kind of passing out briefly when they stand up, bringing in the ears, sensitivity to noise, constant feeling of thirst, excess sweating, sudden heart issues or elevated heart rate, pain in the joint, loss of coordination, inflammation, and fatigue. And these are just some of the more common symptoms, but you can see, kind of, interestingly and very frustratingly, it's very hard to pin down what's going on when there's sort of this really broad suite of symptoms that are impacting you. And, these are impacting people in very fundamental ways in terms of how some of the core systems in their body are functioning. And, it can be really debilitating to try to go about your day while you're experiencing these symptoms. And it's also important to note that these symptoms can be constant and kind of present for someone regularly, but also that they may come and go. So some days might be more challenging to manage symptoms than other days, and that can make things really hard to plan and kind of have a predictable lifestyle. So, I think that there's myriad challenges about, those kind of ongoing symptom challenges, but also the fact that some days are better than others can make it hard for people around you or loved ones, to really recognize and appreciate the kind of the scale of consistent challenge because these symptoms are hard to see. And someone may look fine and even on certain days, be able to do things more or less the way they used to do them. But it doesn't mean that people aren't faced with these ongoing issues. So the big question that this causes is, what is at the root cause of those symptoms? So, they're broad, they hit lots of different areas of the body. What are some of the things that we can do to get, as we say, upstream of those issues to try to understand some of the root causes and then think about what we can do to support improvement and care to help reduce or eliminate them. So we know that there are a number of things that are pretty consistent in people with long COVID, like fairly consistent in higher inflammatory markers seen in the body and in the brain. We know that there's also some people who have been found to have viral reservoirs, so kind of virus hiding in tissue or fragments of the virus hiding in tissue that your immune system believes is a threat and is still responding to. Um, Vascular and endothelial inflammation. So this is around the kind of some of the kind of small the kind of small blood vessels in your body and extremities. Autoimmune issues with disruption or reduction in the gut microbiome. And we know that that has a lot of interaction with your immune system and kind of how your body functions and absorbs and takes in nutrients, but also with some of the kind of signals that your body sends to the brain about whether or not things are functioning well and your body is in a happy place. And then there's also evidence around mitochondrial dysfunction, and so that's kind of the energy centers of your cells. And so we know that these are issues, and what we're trying to think about is, where can we control some of these elements? What are the things that we can do to move the dial on near-term symptoms to help people feel better? But also, really importantly, there's strong evidence that shows that people with long COVID have an increased risk of longer-term health issues like cancer, stroke, heart issues, diabetes, and dementia and Alzheimer's. Now, for me, this was really scary because I knew that I felt symptoms strongly and that they were impacting me day to day. But I was somewhat managing with them. But then the prospect of also having a potential ticking time bomb of longer term health complications, I think really was a massive impetus, on top of wanting to feel better in the moment, to try to get a hold of this, to control what I could control, to feel better. And so I think that there's a lot of interplay between some of the symptoms and then some of the things that can drive these longer term health issues. And there's also happily a lot of opportunity to get upstream of those, to do things to reduce the drivers of inflammation, to address nervous system alignment, and to bring some of those body systems that have been impacted and set off track by COVID and long COVID back into a better balanced position, and to interact with other body systems in a way that helps your body feel safe and like it's working well. And then that sends signals of safety to other systems in your body, and that just helps all of your systems get back to a better regulated place and back to kind of your homeostasis. So the place that your body is kind of designed to operate in. And also we know that there can be some helpful impacts, um, in terms of improving gut health. And these are things that don't take a lot of time or energy to be able to address. And again, they also don't require any special medication. So they're simple, straightforward. They're things that are very doable regardless of your energy level. And that's been really important and really important to us as we've been thinking through solutions and looking into the research for what could be done. So we know that some of the challenges that people have had and people with long COVID, have sought out, many different pathways to feel better. And that sometimes the feedback from clinicians hasn't been everything that people hope it could be. And that, COVID is still quite new. And so clinicians sometimes have limited solutions or access to specialists is very difficult and there's long waiting lists. And that, the clinics, once people get into them, again, don't always offer the solution or the personalized options that people feel will be helpful. Clinical trials are underway, which is great. There's been a large focus on pharmaceutical trials, although we know now the NIH and others have been supporting the kind of non-pharmaceutical interventions, and trials are just in the early stages there, which is great, and we want to see more of that. But again, that those things take time to cycle through. And we know that people are missing out on their lives now. So, what can we do in the moment? We know that long COVID forums and local wellness providers have been a great source of information, and particularly the forums have been, a wonderful community to tap into for people experiencing long COVID. And I know I've appreciated the information sharing there, but also recognize that the information is often unfiltered, and it's sort of all over the map. And so I think that people, either local providers or people online, may not always have the kind of deep background to help and really point to solutions that are going to be impactful and really move the dial for people. So what we've pulled together and we're sharing components of today is an evidence-based approach with very simple tools to help people feel better and manage their conditions. So, the approach is absolutely grounded in research. My background is in data and analytics, and very strong in terms of making sure that there's a solid evidence base to whatever approach is taking forward. And I think that, as I said, that there's still knowledge to learn in this space, but there's enough knowledge and background to act, and that includes knowledge and experience from individuals and organizations and researchers that have been looking at post-viral conditions over decades. So, while long COVID is new, this experience and some of the interactions with people's bodies of post-viral conditions is unfortunately not new. But the good news is that we can learn from that experience and use that to springboard improvement and recovery and help people manage symptoms. So the approach and some of the things that we're talking about today and we're going to be sharing with you are designed to target the long COVID symptoms, and they're also designed to be very simple and doable, even for people impacted by the suite of long COVID symptoms that we just talked about, including extreme fatigue and joint pain and difficulty kind of moving. That these are tailored to be very simple and achievable and not take much energy to do, but over time to help your systems reset and help give you energy and improve your capability.
Yeah. And with this, we hope we already made the point that there is a hope, there's a choice, and there's a chance to feel better. And even with like very simple tools, it is possible. And we of course want to share some of those, or at least one of those. And we just want to make sure, even if it doesn't feel like it is possible at some days, that you really feel and can live a normal life again. um, it is possible to do like a step and to test things out, and these steps can be very small and just moving into one direction. And we want to share also a testimonial who did like very super simple exercises. So the exercises are super easy, and she felt better doing them, and she learned more about how COVID impacts the body. And it didn't take more than 10 minutes a day. And I think that's a very important message here, that we don't need to spend too much time, because especially when the energy level is low and there's not like enough energy for doing other things which can probably support the body as well, like gentle yoga sessions, which take mostly longer than 10 minutes, but having an impact. So we are really looking for like the most simple and easy ways to use, and exercises to do, to have an impact and to feel. And of course, we would like to share one of those exercises to experiencing like what like little movements can do. And for this, we encourage you now to maybe just join me while I do them. It doesn't take long, and I just go in full screen for that. So here we go. And it's super simple again. In this case, we would get up, stand up, and we start with an assessment, because sometimes we want to feel or want to see through our nervous system what the exercise actually has to offer to us and what kind of impact it has. So that's why we start with an assessment. So I'm getting to a point where I find like a point on the floor, which I find again. And that's only for the assessment, it's not an exercise, it's just to like basically get a feedback. For this, I bring my arms also straight forward. You can also have your arms just crossed, and I show you both versions. You can like turn and see how far out. You can bring your elbow, you can use it with your hands too, grab your fingers, and then see how far you can turn to one side with straight legs, straight arms, and then how far you can turn to the other side by keeping the arms long and not moving any or using any momentum. So now I remembered like where's my target on my right, where's my target on my left, and now we do the exercise. For this, I step with one foot forward, and all we want to do is like bring the outside ankle down to the floor, and everything else is relaxed. You can hold on the wall, so you don't need to balance. It's not about balancing this exercise at all. We want to offer your brain like to feel safe. So I'm moving my foot very slow and easy, smooth, a couple of times. It doesn't have to be long either, like 3 to 10 repetitions can be already enough. And then we go back to the spot we picked out before, feet together, hands out, and see how far you now can rotate to the right and how far you now can rotate to the left, and see if there's any difference. Same with the elbows. Is the elbow pointing at the same direction or further or not as far? Usually we have very good feedback with this specific exercise, because it was like kind of relieving some tension in the body, and this makes you rotate further than you did before, or rotated before. There are tons of other exercises, but again, we want to keep them very simple and doable in a very short amount of time. I go back sharing the screen. we move on with our presentation. So we hope you had a positive effect on this simple tool. We want to again give you a little idea of how a simple, short, easy to use tool can look like. And we have another testimonial, someone who was using these tools, who said, after just 2 weeks, I felt better than I had in years. Instead of crashing at the end of the day, I've started to play music again with my partner by using simple tools. And that's what we want to do with this presentation too. We want to encourage to take even like the smallest step can have a huge impact. And also by introducing little tools like those small tools, you can create a toolbox, and they're all practical and evidence-based tools, the ones we use. And you also had the sense of the self-assessment to help you to feel what has an impact, how much impact does a simple exercise like an ankle tilt can have on your body. And the rotation was basically the self-assessment tool to see what other exercise can give for your nervous system, to also calm the nervous system, because when you have a more calm nervous system, we have the chance to be more flexible, more open, and it just feels better. And that's why this feel better is such a big like a big feedback for us too, that those are working. But of course these exercises are all evidence-based, and by using those, it's kind of your guide, taking one step at a time, and we want to share those impactful tools.
I think importantly, this approach is not about perfection. We know that people are coping with and managing, an awful lot in their days, just often to get through the day. And so the thought of adding in something else that's going to be an additional demand can be a bit tricky to contemplate. And so, instead, the approach that we suggest and recommend is one of having kind of a flexible framework. That can really impact improvement, in very kind of with very minimal input and effort, so that what you're doing is kind of giving you energy and improving baseline, but also that you're not having to carve out hours and and tons of effort from your kind of limited energy reserves to do this. And also, I think part of this is about, again, there's not kind of a very set regime to do. Our process lets you hone in on really practical, high impact elements, and find the ones that are right for you. So Andrea was mentioning that it's about finding your toolkit. And I think that the great news is that there is a whole suite of tools and options available, and it's about finding the ones that you enjoy doing, that you feel really make a difference to your body and how you feel, and that you can easily work into your day. And again, the great thing is that it's possible to have things that only take 5 to 10 minutes each morning or throughout your day to do. So it's very practical. And talking a little bit more about some of the theory and approach behind this is that through ThriveNinety, Andrea and I have pulled together an evidence-based approach to improvement called PEDAL. And we like to think of it as kind of your cadence to life. And it's about this combination of things like pacing, which we know is really important in the long COVID space to help kind of manage fatigue and energy levels. But importantly, pacing isn't just about rest. It's also about, doing small activities that are going to improve your baseline and give you energy. But then also really using that rest space and taking things at the right pace for you. So not trying to go out and, run 10 miles hard if that's what you used to do beforehand. It's about making sure that you're introducing activity at the right level, not trying to push too hard and then tipping your system into an unhappy place where it feels really stressed. But how do you create an overall sense of safety in your system? Because I think part of the challenge with COVID and long COVID is that your system has been under threat by a virus and maybe hasn't had an opportunity to kind of dial back down and get into that kind of that homeostasis or that balanced position. So part of what this approach does is help your body to feel that sense of deep safety. And it's important to say that this is not like a rational reaction that you can kind of think your way out of. This is sort of deep into your involuntary reactions. This is your nervous system reacting to signals of danger that your body are sending it, and then interacting with your brain to say all is not well. So you need to slow down. You need to make sure that your immune system has enough energy, and that can create and lead to a lot of the symptoms that we shared earlier with the kind of the 200 symptom approach. And so what we want to do is kind of break that feedback loop in your body to create that sense of safety, to calm down your systems, help them all get back into balance through very pointed, very minimal, but very well-designed interventions. So again, pacing and exercise go hand in hand. How do we make sure that, and when we say activity and exercise, this can be some small movements or walking around your house, depending on where you're starting from. Different levels will be appropriate. Diet is also really important, and your gut and your immune system have really important interactions. And diet can support a reduction of inflammation in your system or cause inflammation in your system, depending on what you're taking in. Alignment of your nervous system is also really important, and that there's some physical things that you can do in terms of your posture to support that, but also there's some actual exercises and activities that are proven to help calm your immune system and bring it back into, or calm your nervous system and bring that back into balance. And that sends some other positive feedback to things like your immune system, to your brain, helps calm that fight or flight response that may be coming in and causing elevated heart rate and other things. So there's some great opportunity and tools there. And also loosening can be very powerful. And we just did a brief mobilization exercise, and we hope you found that impactful. But showing your body that small movements are safe, and that you can do that without a problem, helps sort of unwind that stress response and that kind of heightened, elevated awareness about potential threats that your body has kind of come to be in. And then you can help kind of introduce more and more movement, get your body more used to moving in gentle ways, and then that will help make it easier, less painful, et cetera, to be able to do more and more physical activity over time. Great. So that's a bit of a brief overview on some of the research and thinking behind some of the tools and things that can help support long COVID symptom management. Our programs, if you're interested in learning more, but we want to just take you through kind of our approach generally, is that we're very much about kind of a step-by-step approach to long COVID symptom management. You can't kind of force these things, but you can do things to accelerate the process when you target the right activity and use the right evidence. Um, our approach provides a lot of deep learning about the research and evidence so you can understand why some of the tools are impactful, which lets you just have that understanding, but also lets you find potentially other tools in your life that will achieve similar things, so that you have that understanding to really understand why the elements work and what's going on in your body. Understand what interventions can help you, and what's going on with your body through those interventions. And then importantly, how. So we share the variety of actual evidence-based tools and techniques that you can start to use, so you don't need to create those yourself. And then through the kind of suite of evidence-based tools, you can design and build the toolbox that works best for you. So you can pick out the ones that are most impactful, which feel good, fit into your day. And then, at the end, you walk away with a set of small actions that you can take, every day, or when you're feeling kind of symptoms creep up or stress response kicking in, to help calm your system and help you feel better. And, we're delighted the people that we've worked with have found really big impact quite quickly through using this process and these tools. And we've even had people who have found impact, if they're having kind of a day where they're starting to crash, and they've maybe done a little bit too much activity the day before, and then going through the tools that day, have contacted us and reached out after their session to say they feel so much better already, just sort of after a short while of working through some of the tools there when they were already kind of at a low ebb with their energy, but that this helped give them energy and made them feel better. So we provide, again, a framework and kind of a principle-based approach, but guidance that's also structured and allows you to really take a personalized approach, because we know everyone's experience is a little bit different and everyone's needs are a little bit different. But hopefully that blend of structure and personalization allows people to find really impactful solutions for them. Our offers are virtually based, but we do have some personalized options and kind of one-to-one opportunities, so that we can connect with people directly, but also allow people to work through content in their own time and pace, and in the kind of privacy and security of their own home as well, which is great for people who find it difficult to get out and about, or who are just trying to manage and juggle a lot in their lives, and find it difficult to take time out to go physically to clinics or other spaces. And if you want to stay in touch, we'd love to hear from you, but also we put out lots of kind of tips and information through social media channels, and you can also go to our website. We have lots more info there, including a resources page, which we add to as we go. So, please, feel free to visit, and we hope that this presentation's been informative. We hope it's given you some insight and maybe a different angle on some of the recovery options available. And again, we'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to hear how the exercise Andrea took you through has helped. I know, I was focusing on some of the kind of nervous system alignment work through my own recovery path, and then was feeling healthy enough to go to one of Andrea's exercise classes. And with her background, she was actually doing a lot of this work from a high performance perspective. And I think that work and a lot of these tools, vastly accelerated my own recovery trajectory. And we're delighted to have been able to kind of bring the research and some of that work together to develop a set of options that others can use and benefit from as well. Good. Well, thanks again. And I think we thought that we would share some questions. We know that this is a recorded webinar, but we also get a lot of questions in regularly that we thought we might speak to just a couple of those. In case you've been thinking about kind of similar things. And one of the big ones that we get is how do I need to be fit or have a level of exercise tolerance to be part of this program? Or, how can I make sure that any activities that I do are at the right level for me? Um, and I think that, that's a really important question. And, the short answer on that is that we have um, a, tools within this that start off, they are very simple and straightforward and easy to do. It's possible to do many of them sitting or even laying down. And again, that the idea is that they kind of help your system and help give you energy. But then also there's as the program goes on, there's a great kind of level of options available. And Andrea is fantastic about taking people through the different variations so that you can find the right level for your abilities at the time. And then also have some ideas that as your capability expands, that you can work in and kind of continue to use those core activities, but just adding to them as your physical ability increases over time. Great.
Yes, and we want to say thank you for watching this webinar. We hope it was very helpful and gave you just also the perspective of like little tools and what kind of impact they have, and that they can really help to feel better. And if you have any question, please also reach out. We have on our webpage, and I bring this up again, also Q&As, so you maybe find your answer. If you don't find your answer there, please reach out to us, and we would be happy to support you and give you an answer for your question as well. And with this, thanks for joining, and we hope you get something very valuable out of this. And if it's just one little information, one small step you can take now, the direction you want to go and to feel better and manage your long COVID symptoms.
Thanks very much.